Hi guys, this is my Nikkormat FTn. I got this for about $30 someplace, probably at an antique store. The value on eBay is about $30. The lens is worth about $70. This is a 1.4 lens, a nice fast Nikkor lens. The condition is pretty fair. The personal significance is I got one of these cameras a number of years ago. I sold a Honda Scrambler to my good friend Joseph Zito, and we ended up trading for this. Nikkormat was part of the deal, and I think I gave him my Yashica J5 in exchange. I always wanted one of these. When I was in the Navy, I couldn't quite afford it, and I settled for Yashica. The Nikkormat was much more expensive at the time, probably peanuts by today's standards. This was probably a couple $100 when it was new. These were made from 1967 to 1975. This camera was the first in a popular series of successful Nikon mid-range cameras. Many of the users that couldn't afford the more expensive and professional system-oriented Nikon Fs and Nikon F2s used this camera as an entry model into the Nikon SLR system. If you've seen any pictures of, still pictures of combat in Vietnam, and who hasn't, 99% of those pictures were taken with either Leicas or Nikons. Nikons of some sort. Probably most of them were taken with Nikons. And most of the Nikon pictures were Nikon Fs, but a lot of the professional in-bed photographers also carried Nikkormats with them. These Nikkormats turned out to be incredibly reliable and slightly smaller and lighter weight than the Nikon F. And most photographers then, combat photographers, carried at least a couple of cameras. That way they could switch cameras with different film and different lens in the other one. At any rate, the original model was in 67. The FTN is built on substantially the same chassis as the old Nikkormat FT, but had a center-weighted metering system instead of a full-frame average metering system. And it added a shutter display in the viewfinder and a few other nice changes. And they simplified the process for mounting the lens. Now, when you mount a lens on a Nikon, thank you Nikon, they're the only camera that turns their lens in the opposite direction of the rest of the world. So this is the lens release button here. You release the button and you turn it clockwise to release it instead of counterclockwise like most cameras. And out it comes. Took me a little struggle. Putting the lens back in is not quite as simple as you would think. There's this alignment pin, which is the maximum aperture pin, and there's this complementary pin on the lens. First you have to set your lens to f5.6. You don't want to set it anyplace else. Then you insert it into the bayonet mount. And like I said, it's a Nikon, so you turn it in the wrong direction, counterclockwise, till it snaps in. Now the lens is mounted, but if you set the ASA and the ISO for the speed of your film, the meter will give you the wrong readings until it knows that this is an f1.4 lens. And the way it knows is by turning it all the way in one direction, the f-stop, and then all the way in the other direction. So once you've ratcheted it back and forth once, it syncs up and it knows what the speed of the lens is. So after you've ratcheted the lens back and forth a couple times, if you look at this little scale here on the side, you'll see that the little indicator is at approximately the 1.4 position. So the metering system knows that this is an f1.4 lens. Now the lens itself has obviously the aperture built into the lens. There's 1.4. There's f16, the minimum aperture. And the focus is a nice smooth focus on here. From infinity down to about 2 feet. It's measured in both meters and feet. This lever on the left right here by the lens is to lock the mirror up. Maybe it don't work there. And let me take the lens off to show you that. So you'll see the mirror is locked up there, and that releases the mirror. So you would want to lock the mirror up for short or long exposures so that you don't get the vibration of the mirror. Again, to put it back on, we'll set this to 5.6, put the bayonet in its place. Counterclockwise to lock it, ratchet the lens back and forth, and we're set again. This is obviously the self-timer. This button to the left of the shutter speed is the depth of field preview button. Here's your film winding indicator showing which setting, which number of film we're at. The advanced lever here in this position turns the meter on, in this position turns the meter off to preserve the battery. Shutter speeds are also done on the lens. That's this lever right here. And the indicator is over here on the left with that little dot. So it's at a thousandth of a second now. This is at 1 second. This is at B for bulb. Shutters open, shutters closed. The meter, which you can see through the viewfinder, you can also see on top of the camera. There's a little window there. Because of that window, I actually bought a second Nikkormat, and I use it for parts so I could replace the plastic part that was in that window. The one on this one was originally all mangled. The way you know this is a Nikon FTn is because right down here by the window, on the lower part, it says FT and the serial number, and up there's a little N. That's the only way you'll know it's an FTN. Other than that, pretty simple camera. Here's where you replace the battery. This button is to release the film for rewinding it. Here's the rewind spool for cranking it back. You open it with this little lever on the side and put the film in. And since we're still setting at B, you'll see that the focal plane shutter moves sideways. These were great cameras. That's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, there's 3 things you can do to help. Tell your friends, click the like button at the bottom, and click the subscribe button. Thank you very much.